Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Assistant Sheriff Chris Jones, and I'm going to brief you on some more details from the officer-involved shooting that occurred Monday night, June 1st. As I stated then, this is number 9 for OISs in 2020. We have had 4 fatal so far. At this time last year, we had also had 9 officer-involved shootings, and at that time we had 3 fatal. The shooting occurred June 1st, 2020 at approximately 11:22 p.m. The location of occurrence is 333 Las Vegas Boulevard South, the Lloyd Georg Federal Courthouse, located in downtown Las Vegas at our downtown area command. You can see that map to my left. The officers involved were Sergeant Ryan Fryman. He is 40 years old and has been with LVMPD since 2007. In this incident, Sergeant Fryman was armed with a Glock 17 9mm, equipped with a tactical light and optic sight. The investigation revealed that he fired 7 rounds during the incident. The second officer was Officer Daniel Emerton. He is 38 years of age. He has been with Las Vegas Metro Police since 2006. In this incident, Officer Emerton was armed with a New Frontier Armory .223 caliber rifle equipped with a tactical light and optic sight. Our investigation revealed that he fired 4 rounds during this incident. Third officer is Officer Vernon Ferguson. He's 36 years old. He's been with Las Vegas Metro Police since 2006. In this incident, Officer Ferguson was armed with a Glock 34 9mm handgun equipped with a tactical light and optic sight. The investigation revealed that he fired 3 rounds during this incident. The last officer is Officer Andrew Loker. He's 53 years old and has been with Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department since 1995. In this incident, he was armed with a Colt AR-15 rifle, .223 caliber. The investigation revealed he fired 5 rounds. All of these officers are assigned to our Organizational Development Bureau range training staff. They are assigned to a bureau that does not require them to wear body-worn cameras. They are not patrol officers, and therefore by policy they do not wear body-worn cameras. As you're fully aware, over the last few nights we've had every officer, not only with our agency but with partner agencies, deployed as we work through the events that are occurring. So these officers were brought in from their normal duties to work the streets that night. We do have several pieces of surveillance video from various locations that we will show you during this brief. Our suspect's name is Jorge Gomez. Jorge was 25 years old. He's a Hispanic male, 6 foot 180. And he is pictured to my left. Mr. Gomez was armed with 3 firearms on this night. The first one was a Glock 23 .40 caliber with a carbine conversion kit. And you can see it pictured to my left. This is actually a pistol that is inserted into a carbine conversion kit that allows it to perform like a rifle. Second firearm that he was armed with was a Glock 19 9mm handgun that was on his holstered on his side. The third was a Glock 17 9mm handgun that was illegally concealed in a backpack that he was wearing. Mr. Gomez was also wearing full body armor. He had a ballistics vest with ballistic plates inserted into that vest. Had Mr. Gomez survived, he would have been charged with 4 counts of assault with a deadly weapon on a protected person, as well as carrying a concealed weapon. During the course of this investigation, it was learned that Mr. Gomez had been present at multiple protests throughout the week. At each protest in which Mr. Gomez was observed by police, he was open carry, displaying a rifle and handguns. Mr. Gomez was seen by multiple officers as he exercised his right to open carry, at times walking only a few feet away from our officers. Before June 1st, Mr. Gomez was not suspected of committing any crimes. Therefore, he was not contacted nor engaged by our officers. On Monday, June 1st, 2020, officers assigned to the protest on Las Vegas Boulevard in Fremont noticed Mr. Gomez. He was open carry with a rifle conversion slung over his shoulder and displayed a holstered handgun on his hip and a third pistol, which was concealed in his backpack. Mr. Gomez walked back and forth on the sidewalk and street at Las Vegas Boulevard in Fremont with a group of demonstrators who were participating in the protest. Due to the increased violence, a dispersal order was announced over a loudspeaker, warning protesters to leave. As the crowd was dispersing, officers lost sight of Mr. Gomez. During this time frame, Mr. Gomez left Fremont Street and began to move southbound towards the federal courthouse. A large crowd had assembled in front of the federal courthouse to protest George Floyd's death. The officers at the courthouse were notified that some protesters were carrying baseball bats. At that time, dispersal order was given on loudspeakers, and the protesters began to leave the area of the federal courthouse. A second group of officers arrived on Las Vegas Boulevard to assist in the dispersal of that crowd, and these officers created a skirmish line and began to move south on Las Vegas Boulevard from the courthouse. As the protesters dispersed from the area, Mr. Gomez arrived from the north side of Las Vegas Boulevard and moved to the front of the courthouse. Mr. Gomez was now behind the officers in the skirmish line, and we have some surveillance video that will show this a little more clearly. I'll show that in just a moment. Officers who were assigned to the courthouse steps began to move towards Mr. Gomez since he did not disperse after the initial order was given. One of the officers noticed Mr. Gomez, and he actually thought that he was carrying a baseball bat as he was approaching the area where the officers were. That baseball bat later turned out to be obviously the rifle that he was carrying. This officer confronted Mr. Gomez, and during that exchange, the officer fired 5 low-lethal rounds at Mr. Gomez, fearing that he was going to strike the officers with a baseball bat. Mr. Gomez was struck with the beanbag rounds and proceeded to run northbound along Las Vegas Boulevard in front of the courthouse. Sergeant Fryman, Officer Emerton, Officer Ferguson, and Officer Loker were driving southbound on the boulevard en route to our downed officer call that had happened moments before. They saw Mr. Gomez, and as they exited their vehicles, Mr. Gomez raised that rifle in their direction. These officers engaged Mr. Gomez, firing several shots and striking him. Mr. Gomez was transported to UMC Trauma, where he was pronounced deceased. We'll now move into some of the still photos and the videos. For those videos that have no sound, I'll give you a narration so that you understand what's going on. This is Mr. Gomez walking along Las Vegas Boulevard in front of Planet Hollywood, and you'll notice that he walks past our officers. They do see him open carry, and if you look now, they're turning around watching him as he walks away. He was not doing anything illegal, therefore they did not engage Mr. Gomez. This next video is from surveillance cameras mounted on the building across the street from the federal courthouse. Mr. Gomez is encircled by the white circle, and you'll see him move toward the steps. He'll stop He'll have a conversation with the officer at the top of the stairs who is telling him to disperse. This is after the dispersal order was given. He'll exchange words with that officer, and there's other officers that are stationed up there and to the left here, and you'll see him as they have this exchange and the low lethal shots are fired. That was him running back northbound in front of the courthouse. Those are low lethal rounds. And that was taken off social media, and you can hear the citizens saying he's got a gun and then taking off running. I'll take any questions you may have.
How many low lethal rounds was he struck with?
5.
He was struck with all 5 of them?
5. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have video of him raising the rifle toward the officers before they fired on him?
We do not. We are still looking for additional video. As you can imagine, there were a number of officers out there that night. The investigative team is still combing through all of that video, but at this point, we do not.
What was the time frame between when the low lethal rounds were fired and when the fatal shots were fired?
You heard it on the video there, just moments.
Have you learned anything about him regarding if he maybe intended to do harm or had any plan of crossing him?
Well, I can tell you obviously that he was armed with 3 firearms. He had a ballistic vest on, and there were indications through the course of our investigation that indicated to us he was growing increasingly radicalized. We do not know why. We do not know all of his perspectives. We've talked to some family members that have expressed some concern about that, but we're still learning about Mr. Gomez.
Were his guns loaded?
They were. In fact, the pistol that was inserted into the carbine conversion kit, the trigger was disengaged, which indicates to us that it was pulled at some point. However, there was an empty chamber. So at some point he did pull that trigger, but whether he knew it or not, the chamber was empty.
And he's from Las Vegas, right?
He is from Las Vegas. As I understand it, he spent some time in Oregon as well. One more question and then, I'm sorry?
Did he have any record here?
He did have 1 arrest for narcotics-related offenses.
You know what was said in the exchange in front of the courthouse? It looked like he was there for quite a while, talking back and forth. What was said in that exchange?
I do not. That officer has not been interviewed yet. One more question from Ms. Crosby, and I'll cut
The officers who were in the car who stopped and ended up shooting him, did they believe that he was in some way involved in the shooting of Officer Shea?
We're still interviewing those officers. Shea was shot a few miles down the road, so I would assume that they did not believe that. So that's all I can say right now about that, but I would assume that they were aware of that. So thank you for coming out today, and we'll send more information out later. Thank you.